Reading for the 16th of December in this year of grace 2025. Here it is. I just pull it up. It's called the Gift of Newness. The first quote is from Dr. Jean Latting. I did not look up Dr. Jean Latting, but anyway, here is what Dr. Jean says. I have learned that if we are to grow, we must be willing to bear discomfort. She says, I've learned that if we are to grow, we must be willing to bear discomfort. And once again, from Richard Living, Ernest Holmes, and Raymond Charles Barker, to luminaries of the New Thought movement in the 20th century. Everything I touched shall be quickened into a newness of life and action. Every constructed purpose in my life will be fulfilled. And they're using the archaic language quicken, like it says in the Bible. That's probably where they got it from. In other words, everything I touch shall be brought forth into a newness of life and action, if you want it in modern English. Which actually is a pretty good affirmation when you think about it. Every constructive purpose in my life will be fulfilled. That's pretty good. Okay. And now for our reading. In his book, The Righteous Mind, Jonathan Haidt shares some perspectives from the work of Moral Foundations psychology, with which I am not familiar, which means I've got to look it up. One of the findings in this field of study is that people tend to be either novelty-seeking or novelty-averse, and one or the other seems to be hardwired into us from birth. We naturally embrace change and newness, or we resist it. And though I consider myself to be one who embraces change, he says, I still resist it if the change affects some aspect of my life to which I'm attached. It turns out that even though I've been on a journey of spiritual growth for decades, I still have my attachments. He says to grow is to experience the discomfort of losing what is familiar and facing the uncertainty of the new. When we commit to our growth, we must come into acceptance that the purpose will include some uncomfortable moments. We will struggle. Well, I would say there's a high chance that we'll struggle. But if we're willing to keep moving forward, the healing and freedom we experience will be far greater than the pain of letting go. And as we grow in our ability to let go, we will even find that sometimes we can shed our old limiting beliefs and behaviors with joy and not with pain. In those times when letting go is still difficult, we can bear the discomfort, knowing that it's temporary, and that on the other side of the pain is freedom. Which, let's face it, is really common sense, right? We all have attachments. And as we do our spiritual work and we grow spiritually, then it does become easier to understand loss and to release attachments. You know, as the Buddha said, you know, when he went out to find what was the cause of human suffering, his conclusion was it was attachment. And some people translate that as desire, but that's not true. It's actually attachment. But as I've said before, you know, like Rev Michael Gott, I don't want to lose attachment to everything. Yeah, you would, if you lost attachment to everything, you would probably have a pain-free life, but it would be a very either dull life or boring life, or really not just living. I think part of human life is getting things, and that's not just material things, and then losing them. You know, when I lost my mother years ago, it was painful. As we've lost different animals, cats and dogs, throughout the years, it's been painful. But I wouldn't change it for anything, because the joy that I had from all of these pets and the support and wonderful way my mother brought me up, are things I would never change. So my view is that it's much better in the long run, because when you do your spiritual work, the pain is like this, but the joy of having it is way, way out there. So that's my message for today. He gave us one long affirmation. I split it into two. I release every limiting thought and false belief. I stand in faith that Spirit is moving through every situation of my life, revealing good. Sometimes that's pretty hard to see. But if we have the faith that it will all work out, then eventually we will come through every situation. But the other thing is this, that if you're going through a situation right now, or you do in the future, or you've gone in the past and you still need help with it, for goodness sake, reach out, because some things we just cannot do on our own. Some things we need help doing. You know, when I lost my mother, I had the support of the rest of my family, and especially my wife, and that really helped. And when we lost other things, it's really helped. And even though I'm tearing up now, you know, the person most recently that I lost who really hurt me was one of my colleagues, Reverend Marcia Lyman. She was senior to me in the ministerial ranks, but she and I taught a whole bunch of classes together. I mean, lots of classes. And when she died, actually, while we were teaching one of the classes, it hit me really hard. But I would never, ever have foregone the relationship that we had as ministers and in teaching for the pain I felt when she went away. And I sometimes still do feel that pain. But there were many, many wonderful, glorious moments in our relationship as co-ministers. So that's me for today. I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be back closer to 5 o'clock tomorrow. And my colleague, Reverend Lisa, who is always a lot better with her time than I am, will be on Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page, 9:15 tomorrow. Sometime during the day tomorrow, practitioner Daniel Mercadal will do a midweek meditation. As I said, I'll be back tomorrow evening around about 5. And you can find me on whatever social media it is that you find me on, whether it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's what else? LinkedIn, Threads, Tumblr, Mastodon, Blue Sky, any of those. Oh, and YouTube as well. So, all right. So, my prayer for each and every one is that as we move into this holiday season, and as I said yesterday, and as I believe yesterday, I'm knowing for each and every person here, peace, love, prosperity for this season and for the coming year. And I release my word with gratitude into a law that's divine, that always answers prayer. And I'm grateful for this, and I'll let it go and say, and so it is.